Jane Mayer, chief Washington correspondent of The New Yorker, wrote a definitive piece on that question this month, and she joins me now. You know, Jane, when this news broke yesterday, I remember the last conversation we had after your article came out, and I remember talking to you from this very set where I said, 1 to 10, how serious is this? And you said, really quite serious. You appear to have been correct.
Well, it's not entirely unexpected if you have been in touch with people close to the DA's office in Manhattan. But at the same time, it is very momentous since, as you said, in this country, we haven't had a president who's been charged with a crime. And we don't know that we will have one here. Just because there's a grand jury that's been impaneled, it doesn't mean that they will bring charges against former President Trump. But it's certainly, if I were he, I would be very nervous about this. I mean, I think it has this sort of feeling of like of the quicksand getting thicker.
Yeah.
And so it's certainly the next serious step in this thing. And it was interesting to me that the grand jury is that it has been impaneled is supposed to be impaneled for the next 6 months, which is basically the stretch of time during which the current DA in Manhattan, Cy Vance, expects to serve out his term. And I think he wants to be the one who makes the decision about whether to bring charges. So this is going to overlap perfectly with his tenure.
Now, let's talk about, to me, the black box here is Weisselberg, because there has been, you reported quite a bit in your story about him. It's been clear that there are, prosecutors have been looking into him. They've been looking into some transactions around his family, presumably in an effort to get him to cooperate. That's how these cases are often made. I want to play a little bit of Michael Cohen talking about the centrality of Weisselberg to the operation. Then maybe you can tell us what your own reporting indicates. Take a listen.
In the office with me was Alan Weisselberg, the chief financial officer of the Trump Organization. I was at the time with Alan Weisselberg. The bottom signature, I believe, is Alan Weisselberg's. Alan Weisselberg, always Alan Weisselberg on the check.
Are there other people that we should be meeting with?
So, Alan Weisselberg.
Always Alan Weisselberg on the check. How important is he, and how make or break, I guess is my question, is his cooperation, do you think?
Well, I mean, I think it's probably incredibly important. He knows where, he knows the numbers. He knows it if this is a fraud case, one of the most difficult things about bringing a fraud case is the prosecutors have to prove a guilt that there was intentionality to commit a crime. And the person who would know that would be the numbers man, the chief financial officer who dealt with Trump, who could say, I told him, he knew what he was doing. And he did it with his eyes wide open, because otherwise Trump is going to say, I had no idea. My accountants just did this. I paid them a lot and it's their fault. So he's very important in parsing that.
There's also this question of sequencing to me, right? In terms of, what we saw happen with Michael Cohen, for instance, was Cohen was indicted. He was searched and then he was indicted. And after he was indicted, he was defiant. He was not going to betray Mr. Trump. And then he did. He cooperated. We don't have any word about Weisselberg's status. We don't know if the man has, committed any crimes. I should be very clear. I have no idea if he has. But in terms of the sequencing, do you think that's noteworthy or not?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think he is being put in a vise. There's so much pressure on this man. He has 2 sons who've also worked for the Trump Organization or near and one of them directly for it and the other in a company that's provided loans to the Trump Organization. And so his sons, his whole family is in this soup. And the people who know Weisselberg, Cohen, and Weisselberg's former daughter-in-law, Jennifer Weisselberg, have said, he's not going to let his boys go to jail, and he's not going to really want to go to jail himself to protect Donald Trump. Yet this is a man who's been made by Donald Trump, and he's been incredibly loyal to Donald Trump. So he is in an incredibly tough spot, and huge amounts of pressure being put on him, clearly.